Welcome everyone, I'm Kumbo, and today I would like to talk about the principles of building armies in Clash of Clans. You see, Clash of Clans is a game of strategy. To break the enemy base, you need the proper army with the proper plan behind. And I know many of you do something like this. Just get 9, 10 hydras and spam them all, with an autolock launcher for good measure. And well, I'll be honest with you, that is perfectly okay. If you're farming, you just go out, spam your hydras, get the loot, most time to start, and get out. That is perfectly okay. But if you want to push in trophies or get into Legends League, do some clan wars, clan war league and so on, this is not going to take you far. And let's be real, you're down hole 12, 13, 14, maybe even 15. And unless your base looks like this, that means you have been playing for a while now. So maybe you like the game after all. So why not take it a step further and try new things, experiment. You'll see that Clash is much more fun that way. But I don't know where to start, you might say. Worry not, this is why I'm here today. I will explain to you the principles of building armies, so you can start experimenting for yourself. So go grab something to eat because we're going to stay here for a bit. So let's start with troop roles. In a nutshell, we can divide all troops into 3 roles. Many troops can fill multiple roles depending on the context, but all of them lean into one specific role. These roles are filler/cleanup, support, and main. Starting with the filler/cleanup troops, these are those typically small troops you have to finish filling up your army camps, and during the attack you use them to clean up those trash buildings your main army misses. This way you don't end up with a time fail. This is the smallest category, having troops like the Barbarian, Archer or Minion amongst others. Now the support troops. These ones are those who do something for your army, may that be funneling, tanking or straight up healing. This category is a lot bigger, with troops like the Golem, Baby Dragon or Headhunter amongst many others. And finally, the main troops. This is the biggest category. These are the ones who do the actual destroying of the base. Hawk Riders, Electro Titans, Dragons and so on. Actually, most troops can be used as main troops, but some, of course, are better than others, obviously. But that doesn't mean that those that are worse are unviable. And this is where we're going to start. In order to build our own army, we first have to choose the main troop. Of course, we could just go on and take some existing composition, but we aren't doing that today. Remember, we are setting the basis for you to be able to experiment and discover for yourselves, so no clear answers today. So before choosing our main troop, we have to understand them. This is so we can better know what kind of support it needs and what kind of support it can't get. But don't worry, we don't need a deep understanding of the troops. We only really need to look at a couple of stats, being speed, HP, DPS, and to a lesser extent, housing space. And I know I just said there wouldn't be any clear answers today, but you will need something to start with, so I'll explain what kind of support goes well with what kind of main troops. First, the ground troops. We can subdivide them into 3 categories: slow and bulky, flimsy but strong, and fast and strong. The first category has troops with high HP that can sustain the damage they deal for long periods of time. We want to make that constant damage output last as long as we can, and the best support we can bring for that are the healers. For the second group, you want tanks, such as the Golem or Ice Golem. Since these troops have high damage but middling speed and low HP, the minimal burst of damage will be able to override the healing that healers provide. So we want to avoid taking damage at all. And for the last group, they are fast, and their damage is quite high as well. But with middling HP, they would need either a tank or healers, but because of that speed, they will leave them behind. So we need to support them on the spot, thus spells are the way to go. Now being done with the ground troops, let's go for the air troops. Things get more complicated and at the same time simpler, but we can still divide them into 2 groups, the balloon and the rest. You see, remember when I talked about speed, DPS and HP? Well, most troops have 1 high, one on the middle and one low. The balloon breaks this. The balloon has only one stat high, which is the damage, but that stat is incredibly high. But this means that we need to artificially increase one of the other stats, because if not, the balloon is just going to fall apart. And this is quite tricky to pull off effectively. So my personal recommendations, if you are going to start experimenting for yourself, try to avoid the balloon. Once you have a bit of experience with all other things, then you can switch for the balloon and try the almighty Lalo. Then we have the rest. It's all dragons. And luckily for us, all of them work similarly, even the dragon rank. They don't really need all that much on the way of support, but there is a crucial thing that all armies need, but that is especially important for any dragon. They need a tight funnel. Which brings me to the second point, attack phases. Let's say that you have chosen a troop, excellent. Now we want to take a look at the overall approach you want to take. You can just think of one thing and go for that if it's for regular multiplayer, but if you are in war, you need to think an approach depending on the enemy base. May that be changing your method or adapting it. This first approach on your attack will almost always be to funnel. You want to create a path through the base that your main troops can follow sticking together. That's the key. Spreading your troops means spreading the damage. This means that you are taking more base at any given time, but you are also losing way more troops at any given time. So what do we want? Thin out your entry point. For most armies you may try, you have to visualize 4 quadrants, carve one of them, then follow the natural path. This will serve you well for most things you may try. How do we do this? Well, you probably noticed that I haven't mentioned at all either Siege Machines nor Heroes. And that's because they serve a very specific purpose. They function more as tools rather than troops themselves. So let's take a look at what they do. The King can be a support troop or a main troop. He is a great funneling tool, as he is great doing outside funnel or going into an outer compartment on his own. He can easily set a nice little piece of funneling, or if you use him with your main army, he will still deal tons of damage while also tanking for your troops. The Queen is a bit different, as you want her almost always as part of the main army. She can also set funnels with Queen charges and hero dives, but those are heavier investments and go deep enough to be considered actually another main army if you go deep enough. As for the Warden, it's pretty clear. I shouldn't be telling you what it does. It supports. You basically have a no lol button for whenever you feel in danger, but only once, of course. And the Royal Champion. She is more like a wildcard, somehow leaning into cleanup rather than main, but she does her job extremely well regardless. If you can keep her protected, she can perfectly go as part of the main army, but also she can tandem with the King to set funnels and on outer compartments. Or she can be used to target the middle of the base if you missed it, or the back end to clear whatever is left of the base. And a personal recommendation, if you just got your Royal Champion, you don't have much practice, you're not used to her and whatnot, just forget you have her and deploy her towards the end. This will almost always result in a decent use. Now the Siege Machine. They are difficult to categorize. They are a powerful tool that can help your main push to get through, supplement your army, or set a funnel. This last thing is what is important to us. You see, I mentioned hero dives, and now that Siege Machines can be used to set a funnel. So, for whatever army you want to start experimenting, you should then try to funnel with a hero dive or a Yeti blimp. Both use minimal resources and carve up a good chunk of the base. You can go for more fancy entries later. And that's it. To start experimenting on your own, you have to only think of a main troop, what kind of support it needs, and then for the entry you just have to visualize 4 quadrants, carve one of them, and go through. So you, who has just started to realize that Clash of Clans can be much more fun by investing just a bit of time, or you, veteran player who does vary the strategy, you can experiment for yourself. Find what suits you the most, all while having more fun with schemes, ideas, testing. You should think for yourself. Don't stick to something just because it's what people use or because your clients told you. Yes, you absolutely can ask for advice, but finding your strategy, your playstyle, that is incredibly satisfying. So go pick some random troop to build around, visualize the quadrants and take one of them, and go out there and find your identity as an attacker. From this starting point, you can then start bending, twisting and refining your strategy. Slowly but surely, you will become a great attacker. Although looking something up works just fine.